This plaque is found by the front door of our house. House of Ellis, established June 7, 1969. It doesn't mean that the brick house was built in 1969. It means that the family of Stan Ellis and Kathy Klepfer was established June 7, 1969, when we were married and sealed in the Los Angeles Temple. We are so thankful that we have chosen to build our family centered on Christ, and that began in the Los Angeles Temple.
We both have a very firm conviction that we were brought together by the Lord. And you might ask yourself, how could that possibly happen? I was born in Burley, Idaho, grew up on a ranch and farm there. Kathy was born on Upland, California, raised in Ontario. How in the world could those two ever come together? Well, the first step was that my older brother Steve went to BYU and met Kathleen Conger, and they decided to get married in LA, and the reception was in Ontario. We were both there, but we don't remember each other from that because it wasn't the time. But years later,
Sister Conger took my girlfriend Joy, Kate's younger sister, and myself, and Sister Jill, and friend LT, Linda Tollison, and we went up to visit Kate and Steve in Idaho. And we worked hard on that farm and ranch. We herded cattle on horseback. We hauled hay with these big hooks in our hands. The hay would come up the conveyor belt, and we would stick the right hand in and the left hand in and throw those big bales of hay onto the wagon. And then we'd stack it, and it was hard work. But at night, I taught them how to play Pass the Spoons, and we had a great time. And so then we all left and went home to California.
I wasn't there while she was there. I was still coming home from my freshman year. But when I did get home, all the family could talk about was this great girl that had been there and that I missed. But that was it. So we worked through that summer, and then at the end of the summer, my dad had leased the ranch, and I helped the family move down to Provo, where they decided to spend the interim time. When I got there, I told my mom if she could find out where Kathy was living, I would go meet her. So she found that she was in Budge Hall. So I called her, went down to meet her. She came in, and I said, "You must be Kathy."
You must be Stan.
So that began our relationship.
We dated a few times, and one of the dates was to a freshman orientation dance that they had. This is the section of the BYU Cougar Eats. At that time, in 1966, it was a small ballroom, and up on the mezzanine they had refreshments, and we had refreshments upstairs, and then as we were coming down this spiral staircase, my foot slipped and Dad caught me. So he was my hero from the very beginning.
At the end of that week, I went into the mission home in Salt Lake, and a week later came down to Allen Hall, which is at BYU, and that's where the language training mission for the Portuguese speaking was being held. So I spent 3 months there learning Portuguese. On Thanksgiving, I had a surprise.
Okay, I had made this big card that was 3 feet by 2.5 feet, and you can see the turkey tracks on the envelope, and I took it over to him, and he had a surprise on Thanksgiving.
We finished in December, and I went down to the Brazilian mission headquartered in Sao Paulo. Now, up to this point, I tried to follow the Brethren's counsel and do the right things in dating, and nothing came of it. But now here, just as I was leaving on my mission, I finally met this wonderful girl, and I told the Lord, I don't understand, but I've been called. I'm going to go work hard and be the best missionary I can be. If she's the right one for me, then keep her available. If not, why let her go?
So, as I was dating there at BYU, anytime anybody started getting serious, I would pray about it. And the feeling that I always got, the answer I got was wait. Not yes, not no, but wait.
So we continued to write throughout the mission, and then we made the trip home at the end of the mission, and she went to BYU. I was waiting for a month before I went back to Harvard to
start the next semester.
Start my semester. And I prayed.
My junior year at BYU, I was living in University Villa. And Dad and I were dating for the month before he went back to his next semester at Harvard.
And you wanted an answer.
And Dad wanted to know if I was going to say yes before he asked me, but I wanted to know and fasted, and I prayed very, very hard to know, and I received that answer. And I testify to you that if we pray with real intent, Heavenly Father will answer our prayers, and this was such a wonderful answer that I got.
So then we came home from a date. We were sitting in the car in the parking lot. I turned to KK, will you marry me?
Yes.
So that started it off. Then I had to go back to school, but I was able to come out at spring break. So we got to see each other at spring break that semester.
And this picture was taken in Big Dad's office at 1304 Elm. Then came the happy wedding day. Doo-doo-doo-doo. And it was a gorgeous day in Southern California, and we had the reception in my parents' backyard at 306 Hawthorne.
It was a wonderful time. The kids got to decorate our car, and it was a 62 Rambler station wagon my folks had given us for our wedding, but it worked for us.
And in that trusty car, we took off and drove across the United States to Nashville for sales school, and then we went to Lemoyne, Pennsylvania to sell books. The end of that summer, we moved up to Cambridge, Massachusetts. This picture was taken at one of our ward functions there. When we got there, we couldn't get into student housing, and so we got this little apartment out in Watertown, which was the upstairs of Mr. Bernardo's house. And you came in the front door, and then you just went up the stairs. So our apartment was always open to him, and we could have gone into his house. We never went anywhere in his house, but it was all open.
So one day I went into KK and I said, we've got to move.
What do you mean?
Mr. Bernardo has been messing with our stuff. We've got to move.
What do you mean he's messing with our stuff? We don't even have anything of value.
Come here. So I took her into the kitchen, opened the little cabinet in the kitchen, and there we had bought a bag of little Snickers bars, and it was half gone.
So we both
he's
laughed
been
and
stealing
laughed.
our stuff.
We both laughed and laughed because we knew that Mr. Bernardo had not been taking them, but I had been taking one candy bar at night every time before I started making dinner because I was tired and needed to have that extra energy. So that now poor Mr. Bernardo has always been blamed for anything anonymous that happened. But the next semester we were accepted into student housing. There was a vacancy, and we moved into Haskins Hall, and we loved Haskins Hall. It was old, it was heated by steam radiator heaters, and had all these little nooks and crannies as an apartment, and we loved it. We made it our own. I made the drapes in the living room and the bedroom, and we just created this home. And Dad built these wonderful bookshelves.
I made a big bookshelf out of planks. I wanted to look weathered and old, so I took it down the basement and beat it with a hammer and an axe.
For many days.
To weather it. About the time I was through, this man came down and he said, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
I said, "I'm making a bookcase, but I want it to look old, so I'm beating it up here."
Well, are you about done?
Yes, in fact, I am just finishing up.
Well, good, because I live on the first floor right above this, and I have been listening to that for days and days. But we did love that bookshelf, and it's up in the attic if anybody ever needs a great bookshelf. So that next summer, we sold books went to Sherman, Texas, and I was very big and pregnant, and it was hot, hot, hot. Carried those books up to our second floor apartment, and we finally finished that summer and came back, and in November, on the 19th, sweet Joy Marguerite joined our family, and thus began our wonderful family and our children. We welcome all of you with love and adoration.